Good afternoon. Welcome to the Bloomington Rotary Club's weekly celebration of service. I'm Steve Wicks, and I'm honored to serve as your president this year. Please silence your electronic devices. This day in history. On this day in 1996, President Bill Clinton signed the Welfare Reform Bill into law, representing a major shift in U.S. welfare policy. Judy Schroeder is slated to do our reflection today. She is not here yet. I know she went to a lot of work to prepare that, so we'll skip over that, and hopefully she'll come in and we'll squeeze her in later in the program. Katie Cerniak will introduce our guests. Katie thought she had more time.
All right, we have a lot of guests today. It's really exciting to welcome everyone. So when I say your name, please stand and we'll recognize you and welcome you to our Rotary meeting today. So first we have Russell, is it Broughton? Who is a trust of Tracy Ivanovich. Next we have Elijah Ramos, who is a guest of Jim Bright. And Birch Bauer is a guest of, Tim Jessen. Did I get your name right, Tim? Thank you. Okay.
Somehow, but his name is Birch, like Birch guy, but he's new in town, very pursuit, and he's looking for a job.
Okay, all right. Bear, okay, thank you. Okay, we'll keep an eye out for jobs, Birch. Okay, next, Randy Saunders, also a guest of Jim Bright. Welcome, Randy. Next is Melissa Van Buskirk. Am I reading that correctly? Yes, who is a guest of Ellen Strawman. And next we have Ellen Strawman, we are welcoming. I know she was a member of Rotary in the Bloomington Rotary in the past and is here again today. So we're so glad to see you, Ellen. And next we have Lisa Wicks, who is a guest of Steve Wicks. Welcome, Lisa. And next we have Bill and Kathy Gore. Did I say that correctly? Who is also a guest of Steve Wicks. And next we have Andrea Alune. Did I get it right? Okay, who's a guest of Jonas Chang. Okay. And do we have any guests online?
We're all Rotarians today, but Natalie is joining us.
Yay. Hi, Natalie. We miss you. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. For those online who couldn't hear Tim Jessen's announcement, his guest, Birch, is looking for a job. And in the spirit of Birch Buy's campaign from 50 or 60 years ago, he encourages people to, hey, look him over. Some of you who are older will get that. Also want to mention Jim Bright's guest, Elijah Ramos, is a member of the LA Rotary Club who has just started his master's program here, and he's planning on becoming a member of our club. Okay, Judy Schroeder is here with us, and she'll do a reflection today.
Hello, everyone. Today is Women's Equality Day. On this day, 105 years ago, the 19th Amendment was formally adopted, giving women who'd been fighting for 80 years the right to vote. It's Yes, there's good reason to celebrate, but let's look at some of the nuances. First of all, women in some Western states had already been able to vote since some of those states were territories back in 1869. But this extended that right to women in all states. Second, citizenship and voting rights are inextricably intertwined. Native Americans were not citizens until 1924, and not until 1952, that's in my lifetime, were all Asians able to vote. Third, the right to vote did not automatically give access to the polls. Women and men of color had difficulty exercising their right until the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965, barring racially discriminatory voting practices. Today, I'm sorry to say, insidious and nefarious efforts to limit those voting rights are still going on. So it's a great achievement, but I'd like for those of you who think that this nation has achieved gender and racial equality to raise your hands. Well, it looks like we, men and women, committed to fairness for all, have our work cut out for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Lots and lots of birthdays today. Tomorrow, two birthdays, Sue Scambaluri and Claudia Avellaneda. Dakir Abdullah has a birthday on the 28th. Winston Schindel on the 29th. Mike Hoff, Shelley Yoder, birthdays on the 30th. We have several anniversaries to celebrate, including one big one. I'll start with the big one. Tomorrow, the 27th, Byron Bangert, 40 years in Rotary. On the 1st, Charlie Osborne, 33 years. And Emily Herman, sitting here at the front table, 3 years. And then Eric Spoonmore, 1 year. Lots and lots of announcements. The annual Rotary Toast is the event that funds our club and the foundation's local charitable giving. Don't forget to buy your tickets for the event, scheduled for Friday, November 7th at Ivy Tech. Go to rotarytoast.com to get your tickets. Tracy reported that the Toast Committee is over halfway there, so they're doing a bang-up job, but there's more work to be done, and we'd like to see lots of our club members there at the Rotary Toast. Save the date club holiday party, December 11th at the Bloomington Country Club. Deadline for students to sign up for RILA, the Rotary Youth Leadership Academy, is September 5th. You want to see Joy Harder or Leanne Ratcliffe if you have questions. Our club would love to sponsor 4 students this year. Beacon has invited all club members to join them as they celebrate a groundbreaking ceremony for the new Beacon Center. So save the date, September 23rd, 3 to 4 p.m. at 1201 West 3rd Street. We have accepted a kind invitation from the IU Law School to co-sponsor their Constitution Day luncheon program. It's on Wednesday, September 17th. So this is a separate event. We'll still have our regular weekly meeting on the 16th. Our obligation as a sponsor for the law school event, the Constitution Day, will be for about 50 of us to show up, and we need to eat pizza. The event will be handicapped accessible. I'll send out an electronic invitation requesting an RSVP. But for right now, just so I get a sense of the level of interest, if you think you would definitely attend this event, lunchtime, September 17th, please raise your hand. Okay, and if you think you would be a maybe, raise your hand. And if for whatever reason you're not interested, can't go, please raise your hand. Okay, so there's a high level of interest, and I think it could be a really interesting and good event. The annual Hoosiers Outrun Cancer event scheduled for October 4th. In memory of the late Rotarian Dr. Mark Dayton, the Bloomington North Club is entering Team Handlebars in the run. Sunrise Club is staffing a water station, and our club is evaluating if and how we'd like to participate. The Pillar Arts Alliance will celebrate their grand opening from 6 to 8 p.m. on Saturday, September 6th in the College Mall. They'd like to know how many people plan to attend, so see Tracy or see me for details on how to RSVP. Club members Charles Pierce and Henry Leck have been heavily involved in this effort. As I look around the room, I think Tom Gallagher, Alan Barker, and other club members are on the Pillar Advisory Board. So we have a heavy club involvement in their effort. IU Rotaract Club having their school year organizational meeting on September 2nd at 7 p.m. here in the IMU. Members of our club are invited to join them. So let me know if you're interested and I'll find out the room assignment. Lastly, so the students are back on campus, a little bit crazier getting to the meeting today, but parking was not a problem. I think Jim Bright took the bus. Several others I've heard have parked at Poplars. We do have parking passes for those who want to park at, I believe, the Henderson or the Atwood garage instead of trying to park at the Union parking lot. And I do plan to meet with IU parking operation to learn more. But please don't let parking or just traffic congestion interrupt you from joining the meetings going forward. And then there's always the Zoom option. I think we're ready for the Mystery Rotarian. The Mystery Rotarian is hiding from Tyler. Okay, this Rotarian, a magna cum laude graduate of Denison University, began their career in the life sciences industry. If you know, put up your hand, or if you're online, let the host know that you know. Don't shout it out. I thought this would be a hard one, so. This Rotarian is a stalwart member of the club programs committee who consistently suggests and delivers interesting outside speakers. If you know the answer, put up your hand. Do the same online. Last clue. A Bloomington resident for over 20 years, this Rotarian has made a mark as a development director for Habitat for Humanity and the Community Foundation. Put up your hand if, there we go. And I think Connie was first here. The answer, Megan Neese. Oh, maybe Sarah Laughlin got it right first. Okay. And then Lori, did anyone get it online?
No one raised their hand. You
Okay.
stumped us.
All right. So here's a picture of Megan. Megan is sitting at the front table. She's just indicated that she might want a different file photo, but I think it's quite a nice picture. Megan currently serves as Development Director and COO of the Bloomington Community Foundation of Bloomington and Monroe County. She suggested and arranged today's speaker and she has another interesting program lined up for late October. Away from work, Megan spent 6 years as secretary of Flourish, Inc., a local nonprofit whose mission is to connect the community to free, high-quality breastfeeding support and education. She served as a volunteer mentor during the past 7 years for the Association of Fundraising Professionals. So anyway, congratulations, Megan. Rotary International, it's Membership and New Club Development Month. And also, so Rotary International announced that Larry Lunsford is nominated to be the president in 2027, 28. There are several club members who know Larry, and the reaction has been very positive. So I see that as a very good omen for Rotary. So let's move on to Happy Dollars. Before we start, we've enjoyed some healthy Happy Dollar receipts. Yep. Tracy's giving me a signal. I think we'll be okay. So anyway, we've enjoyed some healthy Happy Dollar receipts over the last couple of months. We'll get a check cut soon for Teachers Warehouse. But starting today, for the next couple of months, Happy Dollars proceeds will be used to help the Bloomington Rotary Foundation fund our scholarship grants next spring. So, Happy Dollars. Anyone happy today?
I'd like to give $2 each for the 3 wonderful guests at our table, Bill, Kathy, and Lisa. So that's $6. Husband, money.
I'm no worries. Thanks, Tracy. It's not particularly happy, but I wanted to share that Charlotte is in the hospital and is doing so. Visiting, we're trying to keep down to a minimum. So by all means, touch base with me if you have questions, concerns, etc. But please keep her in your thoughts. She needs strength.
In honor of Charlotte and her very ambitious, enthusiastic, passionate support of our scholarship program, being part of the scholarship committee, I'd like to commit $100.
Any Happy Dollars online? And I'm coming to you, Heidi. I'm going to wear my PF flyers next time.
Hi, I'd like to give $20, $5 for each of my kids who are back in school right now. And a big thank you to all the teachers and administrators who take such good care of our children in this community.
I see Glinda back here, and then I'll hit Jim first.
I'll match your $20, Heidi. Heidi was one of my students.
And $20 from me. I invite all of you Tuesday, September 2nd to the History Center, where we are at between 5 and 7 going to unveil the state historic marker honoring the local council of women, the women who created this hospital, well, the original Bloomington Hospital in 1905. And we can't put the marker up just yet because there's construction going on at the corner of First and Rogers, but we're still going to celebrate that the marker exists, and we'll put it in the ground later. There you go, Steve.
Thank you, everyone. And for those of you who are clock watchers, just so you know, and I got tripped over this a couple of weeks ago, the time there on the bottom of the screen is 5 minutes fast. So if we're wrapping up and it appears like we're late, we're not late. We're good to go. Okay, Megan Neese, who's been such a good sport about being the Mystery Rotarian, will introduce our speaker today.
Good afternoon. I am happy and also very grateful to be able to introduce our amazing speaker today, Dr. Joel Wong. Dr. Joel Wong is a professor of counseling psychology here at IU, and his research interests include the psychology of gratitude interventions and practices, the psychology of men and masculinities, and Asian American mental health. Joel's research explores various approaches to fostering gratitude, including gratitude journaling, interpersonal activities, group interventions, and psychotherapy. For the past decade, Joel has facilitated the Gratitude Group Program, which is an 8-week program to help people cultivate gratitude habits. And something you might have seen this year in 2025, Joel was also named a provost professor here at IU, which is a very significant honor for faculty across the Bloomington campus who've achieved local, national, and also international distinction in both teaching, research, and creative activity. It's a very big honor. And on a personal note, just having known Joel now for a number of years, I can really attest to the fact that he puts his research into practice, into his daily life. Joel's study of gratitude is part, not all, but part of what makes him a respected researcher, a compassionate colleague, thoughtful father and partner, and a faithful and empathetic friend. It's been a privilege for me to have Joel speak into my life as a friend, and I'm confident that all of you will enjoy hearing him speak to you today. So with that, would you help me welcome Dr. Joel Wong?
Okay, thank you, Megan, for that overly generous introduction. I do want to share how grateful I am and to be here. I get to have free lunch, and I also have a connection to the Rotary Club. Both my kids receive scholarships from you all, so I am really grateful to you all for that gift. And to me, it was no obligation at all to come here. I wanted to come. I wanted to come and give back. I've left my email address here if you all want to contact me and engage in more conversations about gratitude. I'd be happy to do that. And today I want to talk about 5 science-based strategies to live a more grateful life. In the interest of time, I don't have time to delve into the intricacies of the research, but everything I'm going to say today has some scientific basis, all right? So if you want the research studies, send me an email. I'll send you all the citations and publications. Okay. Some fun stuff that you may already know. Gratitude is associated with a lot of health and mental health outcomes, including a study I did here at IU where we found that people who are seeking therapy here at IU CAPS, that's the counseling center here, when they were asked to engage in writing gratitude letters, their mental health improved even faster and better, more so than those who didn't write gratitude letters. Gratitude isn't just a tool for boosting your happiness. It's also about character formation. There's research showing gratitude makes us more humble. I think humility is a good thing. On the other flip side, narcissism is a problem. And gratitude tends to be inversely related to narcissism. Yeah, y'all agree. If people are more grateful, it's been research shows that you tend to contribute more to people's well-being. And so just to sum up, gratitude is not just about feeling good, it's also about doing good. So people who actually are more grateful tend to give more generously to others. I might hypothesize that many of you here are grateful people. Okay. But today I want to talk about the how of gratitude, right? How many of you here want to be even more grateful? Right? Yeah, right. Okay. Can't say no. It's like, doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. Right? But do you know how to be grateful? Like what? How do you do it? It's the how that I want to talk about today. And to set us up, you may have heard, advice from your friends or family members to say, just don't compare with others, right? Comparisons are bad. Not necessarily. Today, I want to talk about 5 types of adaptive comparisons that can help you cultivate gratitude. I call them the big 5. And there was one researcher who gave a really nice explanation of gratitude that I love. And they said, gratitude is about recognizing that your current situation is better than an alternative. I like that. Your current situation is better than an alternative. And if you think about it, that's a comparison. You are making a comparison. So here are 5 comparisons you can make that can actually help you become more grateful. The first one, wait, before I get there, here are the 5, right? I've given you the big 5. And let's start with the first. I call that the more than comparison. And so the more than comparison is what I call the abundance mindset. It's the idea that you're comparing your current life and what you have, your blessings, with what you expected and are entitled to receive, right? So if you believe that you are expect a lot in life and everyone must kiss my feet when I walk, and I'm entitled to gold and glitter, then it just becomes a lot harder to be grateful. But when our expectations and entitlements are a little bit lower, we are more likely to exceed those expectations and that sense of entitlements, right? So that's what I call the abundance mindset, a joyful recognition that the good things in our life exceeds what we expect or entitled to. That's a comparison. I'm comparing myself with what I expected or and entitled to. And our research shows when you have that mindset, you just become more grateful, right? So a common theme in people who have this abundance mindset, if you hear people say, I just can't believe how lucky I am. I'm so fortunate. I'm so blessed. If you hear people talking like that, they probably have that abundance mindset. So here's a little equation, a mathematical equation for you if you like math. Gratitude can be thought of as how much we value what we already have is important. It's not what we will have. It's what we already have divided by how much we expect to have. So you remember 3rd grade math? When the denominator is low, your gratitude increases. When the denominator is high, right? We have a strong sense of entitlements. Narcissism is one example of people who have a strong sense of entitlement, but we're just less grateful. So I want to give you some strategies for practicing a more than comparison. It's a very simple thing. It's just ask yourself a question every day. Who went surprisingly well today? Right? A couple of weeks ago, I was in Denver. I dropped off my rental car and they asked me, how was your experience? I said, it was good. Is it just good? I said it was fine. It was good. When I first picked up my car, I had to wait a little bit longer, but it's all good. I'm not complaining. It's all good. I was trying not to be, a prick. And they said, oh, it's just good. It's not outstanding. You know what? I'll give you a $50 discount. I was like, I'll take it. It's like, it's just something I didn't expect, Enterprise gave me a $50 discount. I'm sure maybe they have a motive for that, but it's okay. I'll take it. It was more than I expected. I'm grateful, right? Here's another one. Every day, we use the language sometimes, I have to do this, I have to do that. But if we change our language to I get to, that changes the way you think about the world. I have to implies obligation. I get to implies privilege. You're recognizing that a lot of things we get to do, we're actually not entitled to, right? We get to, it's a privilege. I get to work in my dream job. I get to drive the people who don't get a drive. I find parking in the garage near my office. Some of you are not happy about that. I get to drink my favorite tea. I get to see my 2 kids at IU until they are in college. I get to talk face to face to my lovely spouse every day. All of these are privileges that I'm not entitled to. And I use the term I get to. It just changes the way I think about my blessings, right? Okay, number 1, as I said, it's the more than comparison. Number 2, what I call the without it comparison. Without it comparison is how do you avoid taking good things in your life for granted? I have a rather morbid suggestion for how to do that. And in case you're thinking, I'm just smoking something, coming up with crap, but it's no, it's not. This is based on research, right? There's research showing that if you here's what they did in this study. This study, they got people who are in romantic relationships, and they got to do something really weird. It says, I want you to imagine and write about, imagine that your romantic partner never existed. It's subtracted from your life. Write about your life as if your romantic partner never existed. And they wrote about it, and guess what? We were more grateful, right? Why? Because when we subtract something good from our lives, we begin to realize how important, how valuable it is to us, right? So I have a pretty morbid suggestion for you, right? Try it. Imagine that your a family member, a close friend, a partner never existed. Or you want to go one step farther? It's just past or will pass, right? I actually recommend it to everybody that once a year, you should imagine that your spouse is dying. Now, that's different from wishing your spouse is dying, all right? I didn't say it. I'm saying, but when you think about it for a minute, just hang in there. Okay, if you think this is weird, hang in there with me, right? If you actually knew your spouse is dying in a week's time, or your partner, a close one, a family member, will you be arguing with them about the trivial stuff? Like, what is the direction of the toilet paper? Is it this way or that way? Right? No. We begin to be grateful for them. We cherish them, right? Here's another version. Imagine this is your last month living in Bloomington, and live your life as if this is your last month living in Bloomington. And all of a sudden, you become more grateful, more appreciative, you cherish everything around you that we take for granted. So I call this the without it comparisons. All right, here's a third one. How many of you here are pessimists? Like you're very good at thinking about all the bad things that could happen. Come on, own up here. It's not contrary to being a Rotarian. Okay. Now if you're a pessimist, you like to think of bad outcomes, this strategy, you're gonna be good at it. All right. I call it the worst outcome comparison. Human beings have the capacity to engage in what we call counterfactual thinking. Right? Counterfactual thinking is the ability to think of alternative scenarios that actually didn't happen. Some people write counterfactual novels. Imagine if Hitler had won the Second World War. Oh, horror, right? So counterfactual thinking, right? So we sometimes engage in upward counterfactual thinking. Imagine I had married this other person instead, or I had got this job instead of this current job I have right now. If you engage in upward counterfactual thinking, you tend to experience regrets. But you can also engage in what we call downward counterfactual thinking. That's thinking about bad stuff. So those of you who are pessimists, you're really good at that. Thinking about bad things that didn't happen. And I call this the worst outcome comparison. Research shows that if you do that, it actually helps you to become more grateful. Right? I have an acronym for that. For practicing this worst outcome comparison, I call it CBAD. Could have been a disaster, right? So think about what's something bad that could have happened but didn't happen, or something bad that did happen but it could have been a lot worse. I'll give you a simple example from my personal life. A couple of years ago during the pandemic, my family discovered that, oh my gosh, cruise prices, were really, really cheap. They were cheaper than 10 years ago. Nobody wanted to go on cruises. They're very onerous requirements. You have to get vaccinated twice, and they check. You have to show proof of that you are free from COVID. So really good prices. We went. We're driving up to Seattle. On the way from Portland to Seattle, our car broke down. We had a punctured tire, and discovered to our horror that there was no spare tire in a rental car. And that led to a lot of problems. And we finally got the tire changed and raced to Seattle. I won't tell you what I did. You might find me reckless. Okay, I'll tell you what I did. I drove 10 miles on a flat tire to get to Walmart. So anyway, don't judge me. we almost didn't make it, right? We were about 2 hours late. The gates were closing, and we rushed in just 10 seconds before they closed the gate and made it up the boat. Okay? I'll tell you why this was significant. While we were on the cruise, one of the propellers of the ship tight, booked out, and we couldn't go to a lot of the places we were supposed to go to on the cruise. And the captain said, "Sorry, we can't go to this place and that place because we have to travel at half the speed." Right? There were a lot of people on the cruise who were really upset, and it was like, "This is unfair! Like, oh, America sucks!" It was like, "You're bad." My family and I were like, "Oh, we're just so good. We're good. We're happy." Now, why were we in such a good mood and not affected by all of that? It's not because we're saintly people, I'm really gonna complain. It was because I recognized I almost didn't make it up the boat. Everything else was better, right? I was able to recognize, I had the experience of almost not making it out there. So anything else that I experienced was infinitely better than not making it. It was a recognition. It could have been a disaster. So try it. Think about the bad things in your life that could have happened. It didn't, right? You almost married this person. Thank God I didn't. Okay. All right. Number 4. Then and now comparisons. Compare your current situation to a situation in the past where things were not as good, and focus on how your life has improved. We sometimes forget how good our life is, right? But it's just helpful. I recommend this as a habit every year. Every year, go back to a time in your past where things were dark and gloomy and bad. I know it sounds really morbid, but it's really helpful. And then you realize, oh, my life is a lot better, right? Think about a time, I could think about a time in my past where I was frustrated and grumpy. I just felt like things were crumbling. And I realized that my life right now is a lot better. I can think back at a time when I was financially not as strong and couldn't afford to own a car. I took a bus, took public transportation, and our family has 2 cars. And so it's a recognition that things are better. Consider the areas of your life that has improved, and I've given you a list of things to think about. Okay. Number 5. I want to kind of pose a really paradoxical question. Why do some high-achieving students struggle with the self-esteem and academic self-efficacy? There are students at Harvard University who really struggle with self-esteem. They think that they suck. It's like, how could it be? Well, that's because they're engaged, they're at Harvard University, and they're comparing themselves with, well, guess what? People at Harvard. If you're at Harvard and you're comparing yourself with people at Harvard, you seem pretty ordinary, right? So, but I want to recommend the opposite, which is to do downward social comparisons, right? If you compare yourself with people that are better than you become envious and discontent. You compare yourself with people who are less fortunate than you become more grateful. Again, the research shows that less fortunate comparison makes you more grateful. It is one reason why people who engage in service, in serving people who are less fortunate, actually become more grateful, because you realize how fortunate you are. All right. So I want to give you again the big 5. Here are the big 5 comparisons. And if you're feeling entitled, here's the more than comparison. If you feel like you're taking things for granted, use the without it comparison. Feeling pessimistic, use the worst outcome comparison. Feeling discontent, try the then and now comparison. And if feeling envious of someone who's better than you, more good looking than you, more richer than you, smarter than you, try the less fortunate comparison. I'll just end by saying I have a free newsletter on gratitude, and I've provided a QR code or the email address. I'm not charging for this. I don't need your money, but you're more than welcome to subscribe to it. I send 1 article on gratitude every week. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Do we have any questions? We'll open it up for questions. All right, Connie.
Joel, I loved that. I agree with everything you said. And just, this is not a question, but a comment. Just this morning, as Gus was driving us here on 7th Street, as we approached the parking lot, here was this kid, this entitled male college student, jaywalking across 7th with all the cars on his phone. And I was screaming, Gus, entitlement, entitlement. This kid is so entitled. So thank you so much for your presentation.
But you're grateful that the kids are back.
Thank you for sharing.
I have a fun question.
Yeah.
So as you were speaking, I feel that I really do my best to practice gratitude.
Yeah.
And I've also noticed that my husband and I may be exact opposites, and maybe that's why we work so well.
Right.
Do you have any research background or maybe just some insight on maybe why opposites do attract and maybe why those who show gratitude more help those who maybe don't or who need to practice it more?
So your question was, how do we help people?
I guess,
who-
or how opposites attract maybe in the
Opposites.
gratitude world.
Oh. No, I'm not aware of research on opposites attract, opposites help each other to be more grateful. It's not research, this is not research, okay? I'm just speaking off the top of my mind. Sometimes when you have complementary strengths, right? You're good at one thing, your partner's good at something else. That could lead to they could lead to two paths, right? One is you get frustrated with one another, right? Or it could lead to you becoming grateful for the strengths that you don't have, that you see in someone else who's complementing you, right? So that's one way to think about it. And so it looks like you've chosen the latter path, which is a more grateful path to take. Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned the Harvard kids, comparing each other, but I worry about kids in general, especially not just in school here at IU and other universities, but also online. And it's what I call compare and despair. They're really doing well, but then all of a sudden someone else is, in their mind, is doing even better.
Yeah.
And then someone after that is doing better. And it's just, it's how do you get, or what do you suggest getting kids out of that situation, or maybe even adults, but certainly kids, that somehow they're always in competition and it's never enough?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one path to avoid social comparisons, what I call upward social comparisons, right? Downward social comparisons can be good, but upward social comparisons, one way to avoid it is to limit what you expose yourself to. My view is that social media is an engine of a lot of bad social comparison because you expose yourself to, people like to put good things about themselves online. They look more good looking online. They boast about their achievements, and you repeatedly engage in outward social comparison. So really, parents limiting exposure of kids to social media could be one venue. And one of the best things I did for I'll share one positive, one negative thing for my personal life. Good thing, one of the best things I did for myself and my mental health in grad school, I made it a point never to find out or even peek and find out, and to find out my classmates' test scores. Because it just doesn't help me, right? And I just never did that, and it was helpful. Now, here's a negative example. I once made the mistake of checking my colleagues' salaries. Right. And then, I discovered, it was like, why is this colleague who have a lower rank earning more than I did? And all of a sudden, my experience of gratitude to IU turned into bitterness and, feeling really upset and angry. Let me tell you what I did. I checked my daughter's fourth grade teacher's salary. And, bless our MCCSE teachers. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, okay, right? And I was filled with gratitude for that teacher, and we gave the teacher a gift card, right? So it's like, what are you exposing yourself to? If you're in the habit of checking one's salary in the wrong department, you're just gonna make yourself bitter. Yeah.
Hi, Joel. Always good to see you. So question this actually relates to what you were talking about. I was curious about the intersections between gratitude and advocacy, both at the individual level and at the, I guess, more collective level, because I can understand there might be situations where maybe you see something that could be perceived as an injustice, an entitlement, and maybe you want to advocate for yourself or for another person. So how do you see folks reconciling that with gratitude? Sorry, I'm curious. Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm obviously an advocate for gratitude. But there are people who have written about what I call the dark side of gratitude, and I'm probably going to write some articles on that in the future too. Gratitude can go wrong. So I'll give you an example, right? There are many, many examples of how that could happen. One is you're grateful to someone who's really helped you a lot, someone who's been really, really good to you, but that person is now doing all kinds of unethical and bad stuff. But your experience of gratitude to that person prevents you from calling that person out. You see that? That could happen, right? So this is where, if you think about how to live a virtuous life, we're getting to a bit of more philosophy here, bear me, right? You have to balance a variety of virtues, right? It's not just one or the other. So the principle of justice, for example, may compel you to call someone out and override your gratitude. You might feel like grateful to this person. I don't want to call you out, but you've done some really bad stuff, but this is where we've got to be cognizant of a variety of virtues, gratitude, justice. Yeah.
And do we have any questions online, Lori?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, we have time for one more. Is there any other question out there? Oh, Mr. Bright. And while I'm walking over here, I'd love for us to post that presentation online on Roundabout if possible.
Joel, can you talk to us a little bit about your classes and what's going on in between the ears of your students? And I bet you have some very interesting discussions.
Yeah, I've seen a shift post-pandemic. I've been here at IU for 18 years, so I want to tread carefully because it's one way to observe what's happening, and it's another thing to make an interpretation of what it means. But there's been for example, a dip in the level of preparation for class, maybe also greater requests for accommodations. Like, I just I don't feel good today. I just don't want to show up for class, right? And can I zoom in today? I'm just somewhere, I'm traveling on vacation. So more of these types, less preparation, greater expectations for professors to be able to do things for them, like the greater demand that, well, you should know that I'm feeling upset about this crisis in the world. Why didn't you issue a statement, right, to soothe my feelings? So I'll let you I'll let you interpret what this means. But I've seen a kind of that greater expectation on us, and I'll leave it as that, and we can figure out what that means. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
May I ask a question?
Yeah. My parents grew up in the Depression, and they talked about, in their generation, they grew up poor, and so that tempered their expectations for life. And after World War II, when their lives turned out better than their low expectation, they were very happy.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, your topic on a generational standpoint? Greatest generation, baby boomers, Gen X. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. If you think about the then and now comparison, right? If you grew up in a Great Depression, everything else looks better. Okay. If you lived through the Second World War, just everything just seems better. Now it's very easy for those of us, I'm not a baby boomer, I'm a Gen X person now, considered old. Um, trying to make judgments on younger people. I know some of you are like rolling your eyes at me. It's like, yeah, I'm old. But you think about people in the younger generation who's like, so you never went through all these things in the past. But I think it's also useful to have some compassion for them because they didn't have that experience. So it's a lot harder for them, right? If you didn't have the experience of something bad or negative that happened, you don't have the ability to make that then and now comparison, right? So that just challenges me to be a bit more empathic to people who grew up with a lot of wealth and riches, and to recognize that it's not like they're just intentionally being entitled. They didn't have those experiences. Conversely, if any of your kids, have go through a little bit of hardship, right? there's room for rejoicing because sometimes that triggers some gratitude when things get better because it gives you the recognition that things were bad and things are better. So
I think we had one more question, Raj Hadai. Could you, Dr. Hadai, online?
sure.
Thank you so much for very enlightening presentation. I really would like to live every single day in the path of gratitude, especially in my older days. My question really is the same question of Steve just being asked ahead of me. I do feel, in addition what you all described, is the factor affecting our growing up in family. I do believe that my family has significant impact on my behavior in general, as well as gratitude. Gratitude has been built in my DNA, and I will pass it to my children and my grandchildren. But I didn't hear it until Steve asked a question prior to me.
So I'm not sure if I fully caught the question. I apologize for the audio. I heard something about your family, instilling you a lot of gratitude, and I sort of missed it. Was that a comment or question you made towards the end that I missed? I apologize.
No, you did well. That is the question as a follow-up to Steve, what he started about generation of the depression and their improvement, and the gratitude resulted from that.
Yep. So does sound like it's just comments? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. I think families can play a big part in cultivating a sense of gratitude in our kids. But I want to share, just as a practical tip, what not to do. One of the worst ways to pass on gratitude to our kid is to tell them, "You should be grateful. Look at what I've done for you." That doesn't cultivate gratitude in our kids. That cultivates resentment, right? So the way to pass on gratitude, and maybe that's how you've experienced it, is we model for our kids. We constantly express gratitude in the presence of our kids, and we even thank our kids. That's the way we pass on an authentic, joyful version of gratitude. Right? Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Joel, thank you very much. You can look around, you packed the house today, so good job. So many things to take away from this presentation. One of the things you mentioned early, one comment or quote said, "I get to talk face to my lovely spouse." Well, for me, a special treat, I get to see my spouse in the audience today. In honor of your presentation, a donation will be made this quarter to Off Night Productions. I do want to comment, Sarah Laughlin won the Mystery Rotarian. There were co-workers here at the front table who knew it right away, but I didn't count them. So I'd like to thank the club members who volunteered to help with today's program. Steve Moberly greeting, Katie Cerniak with the guest introductions, Megan Neese with the speaker introduction, and also the Mystery Rotarian. Lori Garrity online, our Zoom host, Judy Schroeder, who provided our reflection. Sarah Laughlin is our roundabout reporter this month. Tracy Ivanovich was our camera mic operator. Jeff Richardson, our photographer, and Glenda Murray, in Natalie's absence, is staffing the front desk. So our next meeting will be September 2nd. We'll be upstairs in the Georgian room for the quarterly club assembly. We do have some special music lined up for the occasion. So Tyler, if you would share the graphic for the four-way test, and please stand if you're able. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun?